the speech made by Minister of National Defense of China, Li Shangfu, was seen as re-articulating Beijing's position with regards to its position on Taiwan, the US-China relations, and China's role in the region. And analysts saw it as articulating what isn't particularly new, not reinterpreting anything, but simply putting forth where Beijing stands on a number of these issues. And Taiwan is the one that has been picked up by most media outlets. But I think there are also other areas in which China has articulated previously, and again, through Li Shangfu's speech about the international rules-based order and China's willingness to adhere to rules that it sees as fit for everyone.
So you say that this is a speech about re-articulating China's position mainly on Taiwan. How does it marry with China's actions in the South China Sea, where the US alleges unsafe manoeuvres by a Chinese destroyer near an American warship on the Taiwan Strait?
So I believe that, the maneuver, the incident that occurred over the weekend has been criticized by many. Some would say that the words that Beijing has articulated, i.e. abiding by international rules-based order, the need to abide by UNCLOS, UN type rules, was not played out in actuality. That is, there is a mismatch between Beijing's words and its actions. And the actions, as we saw over the weekend, was this very dangerous incidents between China and US-Canadian ships in the Straits. So there's a lot of criticism directed at China for this unprofessional and unsafe practice, despite its articulation of the need to abide by rules-based order.
And it comes just after, on May 26, the Chinese fighter jet swerved in front of a US reconnaissance aircraft over the South China Sea.
Indeed. So what Li Shangfu has said in his speech and in the Q&A portion afterwards is that it sees that China minds its own business and the US should mind its own business. And if both parties do so, there will be less likely of these kind of incidences occurring, and therefore, implications of tension and conflict rising. So China sees itself as minding its own business, but the incursion or the near incursion of US warships or other jets, for example, into the area as bordering on China's area, and also China's right to claim and China's right to Taiwan.
Can defence talks take place between the US and China while sanctions remain on China's defence minister?
So we saw that China declined a meeting with Secretary Austin, in part because the US still has sanctions against the General Li Shangfu. However, China did meet other 11 countries and defense ministers of 11 other countries. But I think one of the problems that this type of lack of interaction leads is that the dialogue that is required to maintain and manage the relationship to avoid incidences that we've seen happening over the weekend will deteriorate sharply without that type of dialogue happening at the high level. But we also know that Joe Biden recently dispatched the CIA director to China in May undercover for a meeting between intelligence officials because of the Biden administration's concern about the lack of dialogue happening between China and US.
Well, one of the countries that China's defence minister did meet with was Australia. The Defence Minister, Richard Marles, on Saturday night, Richard Marles urged him to keep the lines of communication open. Then there was this speech yesterday. Where does it leave the thawing relations between Australia and China, and what are the broader implications for the region?
So we've seen a stabilisation of Australia-China relations happen over the last year since the Labor government came into power. We've seen high-level ministerial contact occurring between Australia and China once again. And I think the recent indications suggest that there are sort of positive outlook for both countries. However, the sticking point, I think, will come and is there on the horizon is just how Australia and Australia's defence posture with regards to China looks. And China will, in the future, seek or demand from Australia clarification as to how it sees China. Right now, we see a thawing of relations, trade becoming increasing again between two countries, sanctions removed on some exports of Australia's goods. But I think down the road, we'll see sort of intersection of defence, national security, and trade relations once again.